It's story time, girls. Let's get right into it. Introduction. Folklore, legends, myths, and fairy tales have followed childhood throughout the ages. For every healthy youngster has a wholesome and instinctive love for stories fantastic, marvelous, and manifestly unreal. The winged fairies of Grimm and Anderson have brought more happiness to childish hearts than all other human creations. Yet, the one-time fairy tale, having served for generations, may now be classified as historical in the children's library, for the time has come for a series of newer wonder tales in which the stereotyped genie, dwarf, and fairy are eliminated together with all the horrible and blood-curdling incidents devised by their authors to point a fearsome moral to each tale. Modern education includes morality. Therefore, the modern child sees only entertainment in its wonder tales and gladly dispenses with all disagreeable incident. Having this thought in mind, the story of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz was written solely to please children of today. It inspires to being a modernized fairy tale in which the wonderment and joy are retained and the heartaches and nightmares are left out. L. Frank Baum, Chicago, April 1900. Literally 1900, like 1900, period. Like that's the whole year. So that being said, a quick disclaimer. This is author's, well, not author, because this is a recorder's note, my note, hey me. I've never read The Wizard of Oz. Like, I've seen the movie forever ago, and I don't even remember watching The Wiz, so like obviously I know the gist of the story, but I'm excited to read it, and I'll kind of decide more. I'll discuss more about why I decided to read this toward the end of the story, end of the video. But for those who are just here to listen to the story and that's it, I'm just going to move ahead and go ahead and start. Again, this was apparently written, or at least, published in 1900. So if it's a little problematic, I'll do my best to edit it out. And this version I'm reading is from Duke. Okay. Chapter 1, The Cyclone. Dorothy lived in the midst of the great Kansas prairies with Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em, who was the farmer's wife. Their house was small, for the lumber to build it had to be carried by wagon many miles. There were 4 walls, a floor, and a roof, which made one room. In this room contained a rusty-looking cook stove, a cupboard for the dishes, a table, 3 or 4 chairs, and the beds. Uncle Henry and Aunt Em had a big bed in one corner, and Dorothy a little bed in another corner. There was no garret at all, and no cellar, except a small hole dug in the ground, called a cyclone cellar, where the family could go in case one of those great whirlwinds arose. Mighty enough to crush any building in its path, it was reached by a trapdoor in the middle of the floor, from which a ladder led down into the small dark hole. When Dorothy stood in the doorway and looked around, she could see nothing but the great gray prairie on every side. Not a tree nor a house broke the broad sweep of flat country that reached to the edge of the sky in all directions. The sun had baked the plowed land into a gray mass with little cracks running through it. Even the grass was not green, for the sun had burned the tops of the long blades until they were the same gray color to be seen everywhere. Once the house had been painted, but the sun blistered the paint, and the rains washed it away, and now this house was as dull and gray as everything else. When Aunt Em came there to live, she was a young, pretty wife. The sudden wind had changed her, too. They had taken the sparkle from her eyes and left them a sober gray. They had taken the red from her cheeks and lips, and they were gray also. She was thin and gaunt, and never smiled now. When Dorothy, who was an orphan, first came to her, Aunt Em had been so satisfied by the child's laughter that she would scream and press her hand upon her heart whenever Dorothy's merry voice reached her ears. And as she still looked at the little girl with wonder, that she could find anything to laugh at. Uncle Henry never laughed. He worked hard from morning till night and did not know what joy was. He was gray also, from his long beard to his rough boots, and he looked stern and solemn and rarely spoke. It was Toto that made Dorothy laugh and saved her from growing gray as her other surroundings. Toto was not gray. He was a little black dog, period, with long silky hair and small black eyes that twinkled merrily on either side of his funny wee nose. Toto played all day long, and Dorothy played with him and loved him dearly. Today, however, they were not playing. Uncle Henry sat upon the doorstep and looked anxiously at the sky, which was even grayer than usual. Dorothy stood in the door with Toto in her arms and looked at the sky too. Aunt Em was washing the dishes. From the far north they heard a low wail of the wind. And Uncle Henry and Dorothy could see where the long grass bowed and waved before the coming storm. There now came a sharp whistling in the air from the south, and as they turned their eyes that way, they saw ripples in the grass coming from that direction also. Suddenly, Uncle Henry stood up. "There's a cyclone coming, Em," he called to his wife. "I'll go look after the stock." Then he ran toward the sheds where the cows and horses were kept. Aunt Em dropped her work and came to the door. One glance told her of the danger close at hand. "Quick, Dorothy," she screamed. "Run for the cellar." Toto jumped out of Dorothy's arms and hid under the bed, and the girl started to get him. Aunt Em, badly frightened, threw open the trap door in the floor and climbed down the ladder into the small dark hole. Dorothy caught Toto at last and started to follow her aunt. When she was halfway across the room, there came a great shriek from the wind, and the house shook so hard that she lost her footing and sat down suddenly upon the floor. Then a strange thing happened. The house whirled around 2 or 3 times and rose slowly through the air. Dorothy felt as if she were going up in a balloon. The north and south winds met where the house stood and made it the exact center of the cyclone. In the middle of a cyclone, the air is generally still, but the great pressure of the wind on every side of the house raised it up higher and higher until it was at the very top of the cyclone, and there it remained and was carried miles and miles away as easily as you could carry a feather. It was very dark, and the wind howled horribly around her, but Dorothy found she was riding quite easily. After the first few whirls around, and one of the time when the house tipped badly, she felt as if she were being rocked gently, like a baby in a cradle. Toto did not like it. He ran about the room, now here, now there, barking loudly, but Dorothy sat quite still on the floor and waited to see what would happen. Once Toto got too near the open trapdoor and fell in, and at first the little girl thought she had lost him, but soon she saw one of his ears sticking up through the hole, for the strong pressure of the air was keeping him up so that he could not fall. She crept to the hole, caught Toto by the ear, and dragged him into the room again, afterward closing the trapdoor so that no more accidents could happen. Hour after hour passed away, and slowly Dorothy got over her fright, but she felt quite lonely, and the wind shrieked so loudly all about her that she nearly became deaf. At first, she had wondered if she would be dashed to pieces when the house fell again, but as the hours passed and nothing terrible happened, she stopped worrying and resolved to wait calmly and see what the future would bring. At last, she crawled over the swaying floor to her bed and lay down upon it. Toto followed and lay down beside her. In spite of the swaying of the house and the wailing of the wind, first of all, shout out to Dorothy. Okay, she said this is actually a great lesson, and maybe I'll need to read this for my class. Um, amongst the cyclone, right? She's in the middle of this damn tornado, and she at some point she's like, "Listen, girlie, it's been hours. We've been doing this for hours. Nothing I can do about it. So I might as well lay here and take a little nap. And what will be, will be. Okay? Que sera, que sera." And anyway, and I really respect that. I appreciate that. And I think it's a great lesson for everyone to learn. That even in the midst of chaos, you can choose to be the calm. Thank you for listening. Like I mentioned, I would speak about this more at the end of the video. So, oftentimes I create the content that, one, I just want to create, or two, that I would like to see/hear myself. And I'm always looking for adult fairy tales at night. And I was like, well, girlie, why don't you just record some? Not for myself, because I can't do that, but if you're looking for it, chances are other people are looking for it too. This is your opportunity to help. And so then I, went to, do my legal Googles. So it has to be something in the public domain because I will not be sued. And so there were a few options. Okay, I want something that doesn't seem doesn't have too much to spare, right? A lot of fairy tales, they get a little dark, and we just kind of want to be happy. So then I saw that this one is it glosses over the negative and it kind of just stays happy. So I think this will be fun. Again, it'll be my first time really reading the. Please don't jump, girlie. Please don't jump. It's gonna be so loud. And I can't have nothing to myself. As I was saying, yeah, I don't remember the last time I've seen the movie or anything. So I'm excited to. Excited is a strong word. I'm interested in reading more. So I'll probably do a chapter per video so they're not too long, and I'll just put them into a playlist. And then if some of the chapters are shorter, I'll combine them. But look, I'm tired already. Okay. If you enjoyed it, please let me know. If you didn't enjoy it, also let me know. Okay. If nobody enjoys it, then I don't have to make any more. So if you're like, girlie, I actually am not a fan of this, you can say that. But if you say that, also let me know what you're a fan of. If you did enjoy it, please LMK. So will continue to make them. I'll continue to make them. Possibly record. Well, it'll be based on the feedback, so just let me know. Also, I don't have my headphones won't connect, so it's a long story. So I can't really hear what I'm doing right now, so this isn't too loud. But if it is too loud, you'll never hear this anyway, so. Alright, else, thank you for listening. Hopefully you have dozed off or found the relaxation you were looking for. Until next time, holla.